Hey guys, tonight we slip back into a time when muddy roads led to nowhere. Whispers moved faster than the wind, and a single man's voice, raspy, barefoot, and half-starved, could ripple through kingdoms. You're standing in a worn tunic, its fabric coarse and clinging with the sweat of fieldwork. Your feet ache. Your hands are cracked from hauling stone and soil, and yet something's shifting. Not in the sky or in the harvest. No, it's inside you. A slow, burning certainty that you were chosen for something big, divine even. You'll soon start speaking in the village square, not with fear, but with fire. You'll say things no one dares say. You'll claim visions, preach wrath, condemn kings, and before long, people will listen. They'll whisper your name in churches, in taverns, even behind castle walls. They won't just call you a man. They'll call you prophet. Of course, you probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments. Where are you listening from? And what time is it right now? Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You begin in the dirt. Always it seems with your back bent and your eyes toward the earth. The land is unforgiving, scattered with rock and thistle, and your family's plot is so narrow, it's hardly a field at all. It's more like a memory of what land used to be. The lords had taken the good stuff generations ago. All you've got now is what they let you rent if you can call working the land for the right to sleep next to it rent. You wake up coughing. Thatched roofs trap more smoke than warmth. A thin blanket barely cuts the cold. Your mother died years ago. Your father left one day and never came back. It's just you and your younger sister now, and she's still asleep on the mat beside you, curled like a question mark. You watch her for a moment, then rise, tug on your rough wool tunic, and step out into the gray. The village is quiet at dawn. Smoke rises from a few chimneys. A rooster crows like it owns the place. You walk down the path past the chapel, past old widow Matilda's door. She's always got her ear pressed to it, listening for sin, and into the clearing where the other laborers gather. You nod. They nod back. Not much is said. Words are currency here, and none of you are rich. The work begins, same as yesterday. Dig, lift, haul. But today your head throbs. Not from heat or exhaustion, this is different. It starts as a pressure behind your eyes. Then colors shift, sounds grow distant. The wind seems to speak. You pause, blink. No one else notices. And then you hear it. Not with your ears, but with something deeper. A voice, ancient, heavy. It speaks a single sentence. You were not made to till this land. You were made to move nations. You drop your spade, gasp, look around. No one's there. Not really. But you know what you heard. And even more terrifying, you believe it. The rest of the day is a blur. People talk to you, but their words echo strangely. You eat bread that tastes like dust. You pray at the chapel, but can't remember the words. That night, you can't sleep. Not from hunger or cold, but because the voice doesn't stop. It speaks again. This time in dreams, you see fire falling from the sky, kings weeping in rags, a lamb bleeding gold. You see yourself barefoot standing before a crowd, your arms raised, your voice thunderous. The end is near, you shout, but you can be saved. When you wake, you feel it in your bones. This isn't madness. This isn't imagination. This is a calling. But who will believe you? No one trusts a peasant. You've got no book learning, no family name, no coins to bribe the bishop. All you have is the voice, and now a terrifying hunger to speak it aloud. It begins small, a slip of a sentence at the well. The Lord will strike down the wicked. An old woman clucks her tongue and walks away. But another lingers. What did you say? She asks. I didn't mean. You hesitate. But the voice urges you on. I saw something. Last night. In a dream. Her eyes narrow. You one of those vision folk, like that boy from Eberfeld. You don't answer. She spits and waddles off, but the seed is planted. The next day you try again, this time at the edge of the chapel. After the priest's dull sermon, you step forward and say, "He's wrong, you know." Everyone freezes. The priest turns. "Excuse me," you feel your pulse slam in your throat. The Lord doesn't forgive all you say. He's angry. Judgment is coming. Gasps. A few women cross themselves. The priest storms toward you, eyes wide. But you don't flinch. For a moment, the world stills, and you swear you see his face waver, like heat rising off stone. Something inside you swells. The voice hums, satisfied. You are becoming dangerous. You're sent away, of course. Told to be silent. Threatened with lashes. But the people whisper anyway. They look at you differently. A few knock on your door late at night. They ask what else you saw. What else the voice said. You begin to write it down. Not that you can write well, but you scrawl marks, symbols, half-formed letters. You draw the bleeding lamb, the falling fire. You even give yourself a name. You are no longer just that peasant boy. You are now the messenger, and the message is only beginning. Word spreads, as it always does, not through parchment or bell towers, but in the soft murmur of mouths too afraid to shout. Within days, your name, well, your new name, crawls across the countryside. Not your birth name. That name belongs to the dirt, to the plow. The messenger is something else. It carries weight. It makes people lean in a little closer when you speak. Even if what you're saying frightens them, especially if it frightens them. It's not long before strangers come looking for you. They arrive in ones and twos at first. A miller from the next village over. A midwife who claims her dreams have turned red. A quiet boy who hasn't spoken since his mother died. They don't know what they want exactly, but they all say the same thing. I heard you saw something. And you did. You still do. It's getting stronger now. The visions come uninvited, just flashes like lightning in a storm. You'll be fetching water and suddenly see blood running through the stream. You'll be eating porridge, then blink and see worms writhing in the bowl. Not real, maybe, but true somehow. People gather outside your door. You barely recognize your own voice anymore. It's deeper, more commanding. When you speak, it's like it's not entirely you doing the talking. You say things you don't understand. Biblical phrases, riddles, warnings. Sometimes you black out entirely. Sometimes you wake up to find yourself standing in the woods barefoot, shouting at the sky. You should be afraid, and part of you is. But another part, the stronger part, is thrilled. You've never had power before, never had people's eyes on you. Now even the village priest avoids your gaze. But the church doesn't avoid you. Not for long. One afternoon, a rider arrives. Dusty cloak, black boots, silver cross glinting on his chest. He doesn't dismount, just sits there in the square watching. You're at the well drawing water for a mother of 6 who asked for your blessing. You can feel his eyes boring into you. Messenger, he says finally. The word is both mockery and accusation. You nod. That's what they call me. You've been speaking false visions, he says. The bishop has taken notice. You wipe sweat from your brow. The bishop wasn't in my dream. The Lord was. That gets a twitch from his mouth. Not a smile. A warning. You're no prophet. You're a farmer playing at fire. Recant or burn. That night you don't sleep. The dreams are loud. Not just images now, but a command. Leave. Speak. Gather. Move. You rise before dawn, shake your sister awake and tell her to pack. She doesn't ask why. She's seen the crowds, heard the whispers. She believes now, even if she's afraid. By midday, you've slipped out of the village, not alone. 8 others follow. Some you know, most you don't. There's the miller with his strong hands and quiet eyes. The midwife who now calls herself a seer. A girl with burned scars who speaks only in verses. And a tall man with a hooked nose and strange laughter. He says he was once a monk, but left the monastery when the bread began bleeding. You walk, you speak, you preach in fields by roadside inns on the steps of shuttered churches. Sometimes people throw rocks. Sometimes people kneel. At night, you sit around the fire, and your followers know. Your disciples beg for more. More visions, more signs, more truth. You don't always have it, but you make them feel like you do. You speak with conviction, and that's enough, until the fever comes. One of the disciples, Joan, the girl with the burn scars, starts coughing. It's soft at first. Then it grows wet and deep. Blood on her sleeve. Blisters on her lips. The others grow nervous. You try to heal her. Place your hands on her forehead. Whisper the words that came in your last dream. She dies 2 days later. The group is silent. They look to you for answers, and for the first time you have none. She saw demons, the former monk says. Her death was a cleansing. No, the midwife says. He promised we'd be safe. Didn't you? They all stare at you. You step away, into the woods, alone. And that's when it happens again. The voice. But it's different now. Louder, angrier. They do not follow you. They follow me. Remember your place. You fall to your knees, cry out. The ground trembles, though maybe only in your mind. A gust of wind knocks branches from trees. Leaves scatter like birds. And then quiet. You return to camp. Your disciples are awake, huddled by the embers. They ask nothing. You say nothing. But the next morning you wake up and the girl's body is gone. Buried, you assume. No one claims to have done it. No one speaks of it again. You march on. By now the towns have begun to expect you. You walk into a square and people part like reeds in a river. Some spit, some kneel, some bring sick children for healing. You touch their foreheads even when it makes your skin crawl. You start writing again. Not just visions, but rules. New commandments. Things the voice has whispered to you in fevered dreams. The world is ending. The signs are clear. The old church has failed. The Lord speaks not to bishops, but to the broken. Follow the messenger, or be swept away. You nail the writings to chapel doors. You shout them from rooftops. Your following grows. so does the danger. One night a child sneaks into camp with a warning men are coming. Armed men, sent by the bishop. They plan to silence you before your words spread further. Your disciples look to you, eyes wide. Some want to flee, some want to fight. You raise your hand. We don't run, you say. The Lord walks ahead of us. You don't sleep that night, but not because of fear, because the next morning you plan to speak the greatest prophecy yet, one that will change everything. Morning breaks like a blade across the sky, sharp, silver, and cold. You're already awake when the sun touches the treetops. You've been sitting by the fire, staring into the dying embers, whispering prayers that feel half your own and half borrowed from something deeper, something ancient. Your disciples stir slowly, rubbing sleep from their eyes, unsure whether the silence is sacred or dangerous. You stand. The fire crackles once, then dies completely, as if giving way to what you're about to say. Today you begin voice hoarse from smoke and sleep. We are no longer wanderers. They look up. You can see the exhaustion in their faces, but also hope. Desperate, reckless hope. We will speak in the heart of the next town openly. No more hiding, no more whispers. The Lord has shown me the place, and He has given me the words. Someone gulps. The former monk crosses himself. But no one stops you. You march. The town is small, ringed with a crude palisade and a tired-looking gate that creaks open at the push of your hand. No one bars the way. Not yet. As you walk through the narrow streets, people emerge from doorways and windows, called by the hush of rumor, the scent of smoke on your clothes, the strange, relentless gleam in your eyes. You step into the square, a raised stone platform, a place where traders hawk turnips or butchers announce fresh cuts becomes your pulpit. Your disciples fan out behind you. Some carry crude wooden crosses. Others hold nothing but their breath. You climb up. At first, nothing. A few curious children. A merchant adjusting his stall. A pig snorting as it's led down the lane. You close your eyes. The voice within you rises, swelling like a storm tide. And then you speak. Hear me, all who carry hunger in your bellies and pain in your bones. The Lord is not in the towers of bishops or the gold of kings. He is here. Your hand trembles, points downward in the mud, and the blood, and the breaking of bread. More people arrive. The murmuring grows. Your voice lifts. I am the messenger chosen not by men, but by the heavens. I bring not comfort, but fire. I bring not peace, but truth. The old world is crumbling, and in its ashes we must build something new. Your words strike like flint against stone. You see it sparks in their eyes. One woman drops to her knees, sobbing. A cobbler tears the front from his apron and presses it to his heart. A man steps forward and shouts, "Say more, you do." You speak of visions, of angels weeping, of kings falling to dust, of a kingdom not made by human hands. You speak of the river that will run red, of the Lamb that will rise in smoke. And you speak of yourself not as Savior, but as herald. I am not the light, you say. I am the voice crying out before it. By the time you finish, the square is full, packed, silent. Then a stone flies. You don't see who throws it. It hits your shoulder, a hard thud that knocks the breath from your lungs. You stumble back, gasps, screams, but you don't fall. You rise. You raise both arms, blood dripping from your tunic, and shout, "Do you see?" Even the stones cry out against the old ways. More stones follow, but none reach you. Your disciples surge forward. The crowd turns. Some protect you, some flee. And then the soldiers arrive, riding hard, armor flashing, dust billowing behind them like a second army. You're pulled down from the platform just in time. Your followers scatter. A few try to hold the soldiers back. They are beaten quickly and without ceremony. But you are seized. Hands twist your arms behind your back. A blade presses to your throat. Someone strikes your legs and you drop to your knees. The town square empties. You're dragged to a cell beneath the chapel. The same chapel where only minutes ago you claimed divine fire. It smells of mildew and old sins. Chains hang on the walls. The only light filters through a slit too narrow for a hand. You sit. You bleed. You wait. Hours pass. Maybe more. No food. No questions. Just the wet drip of stone and your own breath echoing off the walls. Then finally footsteps. A tall man enters. His robes are dark. His eyes darker. A bishop or something higher. He doesn't speak at first. Just studies you like an insect on a pin. When he does speak, his voice is soft. Dangerously so. You stir chaos, he says. And chaos is contagious. You say nothing. You think you've seen the divine. But your visions are illness, delusion, pride. Still, you stay silent. He leans closer, recant. You look him in the eye. You didn't see what I saw. His hand snaps across your face. The sting blooms instantly. You'll die for this, he says. You nod. Then I'll die a servant, not a slave. He leaves. You're alone again. But not really. The voice returns. Only now it's not gentle. It's fire. It tells you to prepare. That this pain is just the beginning. That prophets are always persecuted. You press your head against the stone and whisper the new words it gives you. They burn your tongue like wine gone sour. But you whisper them anyway. Because you know when they take you to trial, it won't be a judgment. It'll be a reckoning. And you're ready. You don't know how many days pass in the darkness. Time slips away in fragments, moments measured by the scraping of rats, the echo of footsteps overhead, and the dry ache in your throat. Hunger gnaws at you constantly, but it's not the worst part. The worst is the silence between the whispers. The voice still comes, but it's harder to hear now. It flickers like candlelight, easily smothered by doubt. You begin to wonder, was it ever real? Were the visions sent from heaven or born from fever and hunger? Then the door opens. 2 guards haul you upright. Your knees scream. You can barely walk, but they drag you down the corridor anyway, up stone steps into a room so bright you have to shield your eyes. It's a makeshift court, though it feels more like a butcher's pen. A long wooden table. A handful of churchmen with their eyes full of judgment. A crowd behind them murmuring, watching you like a wolf in a cage. At the center sits the bishop. You recognize him from your cell visit. His ring glints in the light. His voice, when it comes, is calm and deliberate. You are charged, he says, with heresy, blasphemy, and inciting rebellion against the holy order of the church. You don't respond. Do you deny the accusations? You raise your head. I deny that the church owns the truth. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Someone spits. The bishop doesn't flinch. You claim visions, But you are not ordained. You are not trained. You are not chosen. I didn't choose the visions you say. They chose me. He slams a book closed. Enough. They bring forth witnesses, a priest from your village, pale and sweating. He says you disrupted mass, spread falsehoods. You nod. That much is true. A merchant speaks next. He claims you caused a riot in the town square, that your followers damaged his stall. You say nothing. You barely remember the stall. Only the faces, the hunger in their eyes. Then they bring the midwife. Her face is tight with fear. She avoids your gaze. I followed him, she says. I believed him. I thought he was sent by God. A pause. But I was wrong. Something cold settles in your chest. She doesn't look at you. She finishes quietly. He's not a prophet. He's just a man. The court nods grimly. The bishop leans back in his chair. You see, even his own companions abandon him. This is not holiness. This is madness. Dangerous madness. You're given a chance to speak. One chance, and despite everything, your exhaustion, your bleeding wrists, the betrayal, you find your voice again. Stronger than it has ever been, I saw fire, you say. Not in dreams. In the eyes of people who had nothing, who were told they were nothing, and for the first time they believed they mattered. You stand taller. You fear me not because I lie, but because I speak what you've buried. The bishop raises a hand. Blasphemy. No, you say louder now. It's truth. The church has grown fat while the poor bury children. You sell salvation like it's grain. You trade God for gold. I've seen what's coming. It won't be stopped by robes and rings. The guards move toward you. The bishop motions for them to wait. This is your final warning, he says. Recant, publicly. Say the visions were false, that you were misled, that you are sorry. You look around the room, into the faces of the people watching you. Some wide-eyed, some angry, some just a few with the faintest glimmer of hope. You turn back to the bishop. No. He sighs. Then so be it. They drag you back to the cell. But it's different now. You've passed some invisible line. You're no longer a prisoner awaiting judgment. You're a heretic awaiting execution. Your chains feel heavier, the voice in your head quieter, but not gone. That night a rat scurries across your foot. You barely notice. You're thinking of your sister. You told her to stay behind in a village 2 days' ride away. You wonder if she heard what happened, if she still believes you. In the morning they come again. This time not to question, but to brand. They strip your tunic and press hot iron to your shoulder. A mark, a warning, one that tells others you're condemned. The pain is white-hot and you scream. You can't help it. The voice doesn't protect you from that. Later you lie on the cold stone shaking. The wound pulses with heat, but the rest of your body is ice. Your teeth chatter. You mumble prayers between your breaths. And then in the dark, a new vision. Clear, vivid, blinding. You see a field of fire, but not destruction. Renewal. People walking through it, not burning but changing. Shedding skin like snakes. Shedding fear. Shedding shame. And at the center you, still bound. Still bleeding. But standing. You wake with a jolt. Tears streak your face, and not from the pain, because for the first time since your capture, you feel something you feared had been lost. Purpose. You are not finished. Not yet. The days stretch onward, each one like a stone added to the weight pressing down on your chest. Your body weakens, but your resolve does not. The wound on your shoulder scabs, then festers, then scabs again. A bitter stink clings to you, the smell of sweat and blood and fear. But even fear loses its edge when you sit with it long enough. After a while, it becomes something else, something harder, something that whispers they can't kill an idea. The cell door creaks again. This time, it's not the guards. It's a boy, thin, silent, with eyes like polished coal. He slides inside quickly and kneels beside you, placing something in your hand, a crust of bread still warm, wrapped in a cloth. You blink. Why? My mother says you saw the sky cry fire, he whispers. She saw it too. She just didn't tell anyone. Before you can answer, he's gone. You stare at the bread. The cloth is stained with soot, its threads cheap. It feels holy. You eat it slowly, savoring every dry, hard bite. It's the first real food you've had in what feels like forever. And with each chew, your strength trickles back. Later that night, the voice returns, not in fury this time, but in firelight warmth. You close your eyes and listen as it spins out a new command. Speak again, not in secret, not in riddle, but plainly. You rise the next morning shakily, and when the guard comes to empty your chamber pot, you speak to him. Do you know why they're afraid of me? The man scoffs. Because you're mad. No, because I'm right. He says nothing, but he doesn't slam the door when he leaves. The next day, the baker's daughter appears at the barred window slit. She doesn't say a word, just looks at you like she's staring at a painting in a church, equal parts wonder and doubt. You meet her gaze. Tell your father the famine isn't over, not yet. But it will be if the people stop giving their harvest to the priests. She flinches, then runs. You sit back and wait, and that's when it begins, again. Outside the prison you hear shouting, not violent, not angry, just numerous. Voices, dozens, maybe more, chanting, calling your name. The messenger, you rise, walk to the door, listen. It's real. Your disciples are out there. Not all of them, but some, and others too. Strangers, followers, curious villagers, maybe even people you once healed or tried to. They're holding vigil, demanding your release, and you hear the guards barking orders, chains rattling, hooves clattering on cobblestone. But the people don't move. They keep chanting. You smile, because now they can't silence you. Not really. Even if they burn you, the words will remain, echoed in mouths not your own. By the third day, the church can't ignore it. They come to you again, 3 of them this time. The bishop, a scribe, and a younger priest with anxious eyes and a tremble in his lip. The bishop speaks. The crowd demands your voice. We will permit one final sermon. 1. You nod. So be it. They clean you barely, give you fresh clothes, rough but clean, a coarse robe, a belt, and sandals so stiff they bite your heels. They march you into the square under heavy guard. And when you step into the light, you freeze. Hundreds, maybe more. Faces packed into every corner of the courtyard. Farmers, children, old women gripping rosaries. Tradesmen still dusted with flour or coal. They part like a tide as you approach the stone platform. The same platform you'd once been dragged down from. You climb it again. Your knees shake. Your body still weak. But your spine straightens as you face them. No crowd noise now. Just breath. Just silence. Then you speak. Brothers, sisters, strangers. I came from mud. I came from ash. I did not grow up reading books in a cloister. I grew up counting coins I didn't have and burying food I couldn't afford to eat. A murmur ripples through the crowd. I was not taught to speak, you say, but the fire taught me. Not fire that burns, fire that reveals. It showed me this world and how it twists the sacred into gold and calls it God. The bishop shifts uncomfortably behind you. You don't turn. I say this not to shame, not to destroy. I say it to wake you. You pause. Let it sink. The Lord is not locked behind stained glass. He is in the mud, in the cry of your children, in the ache in your bones. He is with you, not above you. A woman in the crowd shouts, "Tell them you raise your arms. I am not your savior. I am your mirror. Look in me and see what you already know, but were too afraid to speak." The crowd surges not in violence but in unity. Hands raised, voices lifted. Some weep, some shout prayers. Some fall to their knees overcome. And you weakened, wounded, yet unbroken step down from the platform. The guards hesitate. The bishop watches you closely, calculating. You wonder what happens next. Will they let you live, fearing more uprising? Or kill you, hoping to make you a martyr no one remembers, but you no longer fear either path? Because now you know, even if they bury your body, your words will walk forever. The crowd doesn't disperse. Not right away. They linger in the square long after your voice has fallen silent, like echoes waiting to be picked up again. Children mimic your gestures. Old men nod as though they've remembered something they thought was long forgotten. The guards exchange looks, uncertain whether to act or hold their ground. Your very presence has disrupted the rhythm of power, and they're too afraid to beat the drum back into order. You are led away, but not back to the cell. This time they bring you to a quiet stone chamber behind the chapel. There's no straw on the floor, no shackles on the wall, just a table, a chair, a flickering candle that casts two shadows behind you. One your own, and one that feels like it doesn't belong to any flesh at all. The bishop enters again. No guards, no sword, just silence. He closes the door and sits across from you. "You've caused quite a stir," he says at last, as if commenting on the weather. You nod. Truth does that. He smiles, thin and tired. "Is that what you call it?" "I don't care what you call it," you say. "It's bigger than me now. Bigger than you." He leans back. "Do you know what happens next?" You look him in the eye. You decide whether I'm more dangerous alive or dead. He laughs, genuine this time. "Clever, but wrong. I already know you're more dangerous alive." A pause. He's quiet again. Then, "So I offer you a choice." You stiffen. The voice inside you flickers alert. He continues. Leave. Today. Vanish. No followers. No speeches. No more prophecy. We'll say you died in prison. Let the people weep, sing songs. Let your legend pass with time. But you'll be alive. Free. Quiet. You stare at him. You want me to disappear. I want to keep the kingdom from burning, he replies, calm. You keep talking, and one day your words will turn into weapons. You know that. You may not want it, but it will happen. Revolution follows fire. You look down at your hands. The calluses are still there, faint beneath the bruises and scars. Peasant hands. You were never meant to hold this kind of power. But now that you've tasted it, it hums in your blood. You speak slowly. You're afraid of me. No, he says with something dangerously close to pity. I'm afraid of the people who believe in you. They're the ones who will die first when this all goes wrong. He stands. Decide by nightfall. He leaves you alone. And the silence is deafening. You walk to the window, the same narrow slit that once let in only cold and the occasional bird cry. Now it offers a sliver of sky. Gray. Soft. Infinite. You imagine slipping away beneath it. A quiet village in the hills. A new name. No more visions. No more weight. Could you... You hear the chants again in your memory. The raised hands. The boy with the bread. The girl with burn scars who followed you into the wild. You hear the voice again, stronger now, urgent. You were not called to survive. You were called to speak. And just like that, you know. There is no choice, and that night you return to your cell, not because you've been dragged there, but because you asked for it. The guards are confused, but they obey. You sleep on stone, and in your dream, a tree splits open and spills light. From its roots crawl insects with human faces. From its branches fall coins that scream. And in the center of it all, you mouth open, but no words coming out. You wake, gasping. It's a vision, no doubt. But its meaning is tangled, unclear. Is it a warning, a glimpse of the future, or simply your fears given form? No matter. The next morning, the door opens. But this time, it's not the bishop. It's the young priest, the one with the trembling hands. He kneels before you, trembling still. I heard you speak, he says. I've served the church all my life. I've memorized every sermon, and yet nothing ever moved me until that day. You sit up. I don't know what I believe, he admits, but I believe you believe it. And that's enough. He hands you something beneath his robe. A folded scrap of parchment. A map. There's a monastery in the mountains, he whispers. Old. Half abandoned. The bishop thinks it irrelevant. If you go there, you could start again. Quietly. Or not. It's yours. You unfold the paper. The ink is smudged. The path is long, but it leads somewhere. He stands. I'll leave the door open tonight. The rest is up to you. And he's gone. You stare at the map, then at the door, then at your hands. Whatever you choose, it won't be safe. But the voice inside you is louder than it's ever been. And it's not asking anymore. It's leading. You don't sleep. You sit on the edge of the straw mat, the map unfolded across your lap, its creases worn by trembling hands. The candle flickers low. The cell door stands slightly ajar, just as promised. Outside silence. The kind of silence that holds its breath waiting for you to take a step. But you don't move. Not yet. Because this is not just escape. This is decision. A moment that cleaves your life in two, before and after. Prophet or fugitive, firebrand or ember. You listen. The voice is there, coiled like smoke in your chest. It whispers, "There is no road where I do not walk beside you." So you rise. You wrap the parchment, tuck it under your robe. Your body aches. The burn on your shoulder pulls with every breath. But you move slowly and surely through the narrow passage. Your sandals are near silent on the stone. No guards, no shouts. Just the moon hanging low through high windows, casting long shadows that follow you like loyal dogs. You step outside. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, you breathe real air. Crisp, cold, alive. The scent of earth and damp hay. Somewhere in the distance, an owl calls. A star blinks behind a cloud. Freedom, but also exile. You make your way through the woods by instinct more than sight. You avoid the roads, move through deer trails, duck beneath low branches, press through thickets that scratch your arms raw. And still the map guides you. The days blur. You beg bread from strangers who look at your face too long before giving it. You sleep in barns, in hollow trees, in dried-out riverbeds. Once you wake to find a fox curled at your feet. It stares at you with wide, unblinking eyes, then vanishes without a sound. You wonder if it was real. By the 6th day, the mountains rise in the distance like broken teeth biting the sky. The monastery waits there. You know it. You feel it. Like a flame waiting to be struck. But your arrival is not triumphant. The path grows steep. Your legs shake with effort. Hunger gnaws deeper than before. You nearly faint twice. Once you slip and land hard on your side, gasping for breath, sobbing not from pain but sheer frustration. "Why me?" you whisper aloud, voice cracking. And the voice answers soft, almost sad. Because you listened. You press forward. At last the monastery appears half swallowed by vines, its stone walls slumped with time, roof sagging, gate hanging loose on one hinge. It is silent, abandoned, dead. You stumble inside. Dust coats the floor. Mice scatter. A few broken pews lie in rows like fallen soldiers. But the altar still stands. A single candle, long melted into a wax puddle, sits forgotten beside a wooden cross. And behind the altar, a stairwell. You descend. The crypt is dark, colder than death, but you don't stop. At the end of the narrow corridor is a room, round, hollow, a circle of stone with no windows and no doors. Just space. And it feels right. Like it waited for you. You collapse in the center. And dream. This time the vision is different. Not fire. Not blood. But silence. A still lake. A figure on the shore cloaked in white. They hold a lamp and you cannot see their face. They raise a hand. You follow. You wake crying. You live in the monastery now. Days pass without speech. You gather water from the spring behind the hill. You eat what grows near bitter roots, mushrooms you pray aren't poison. You read old scraps of scripture carved into the walls, but mostly you listen. And slowly they find you. First, it's a mother with her crippled son, then a woodsman who claims he saw fire spiral from a tree. Then a merchant's widow who says your words were the last her husband ever spoke. They come not in droves, but in ones and twos, quiet, steady, with questions in their eyes. You don't preach, you sit, you share food, you listen. You answer only when the voice compels you to speak. Sometimes the words are gentle, other times they cut. But always they resonate. People leave changed. They return later with others. A small circle forms. They call themselves the ashen flock. They say the old world must die for something new to be born. They speak of justice, of balance, of light from ruin. You don't claim leadership, but they look to you anyway. One evening, as the first frost paints the mountain path, your sister arrives. You don't recognize her at first, older now, sharper around the eyes. But she falls to her knees and weeps in your arms. She had heard the rumors. She followed the map. You feed her soup by the fire. You tell her what happened. And she listens silent like she used to as a child, when you spun tales to keep her calm on stormy nights. And then she says quietly, "Do you still believe you don't hesitate?" "Yes." She nods. "Then I will stay." That night you sleep beside the fire. The voices in your head not tormenting, but humming, harmonizing, a chorus. You dream of the future. And this time there is no fire, only a field of wheat, tall, golden, endless. And in the wind the voice returns, not warning, not commanding, just softly saying, "Ow, begin again." The monastery becomes a heartbeat, slow, steady, persistent. The stones hum with the rhythm of prayer, footsteps, whispered truths. What was once a ruin now stirs with purpose. You don't rebuild the walls, not yet. You rebuild trust, ritual, belief. Word travels down from the mountain like smoke on wind. Travelers arrive with hollow eyes and shaking hands. Some come with loss, some with questions, some with rage. You don't offer miracles. You offer silence, warmth, and the chance to feel seen. Each day begins before dawn. You rise before the others, walking the frost-covered paths with bare feet, feeling every stone as a reminder you are not above suffering. You still bleed, still hunger. You are not anointed. You are simply awake. The ashen flock grows not through shouts but through stories. Each person who visits carries your words outward, repainted through their own lives. They say the messenger lives on the mountain, that he sees things before they happen, that his dreams become warnings, that he knows your sorrow without asking. You never correct them, because it isn't about you anymore. It's about what you've lit. One day a woman arrives carrying a broken staff. She doesn't speak at first, just watches you from a distance as you sweep the leaves from the chapel floor. You pretend not to notice, but you feel her eyes on you, heavy as prayer. Finally, she steps forward. Her voice cracks. "You said that God lives in the ache." You pause, nod slowly. "I did." She sets the broken staff down. "Then he lives in me." You lead her to the spring. She kneels without being asked. Not a baptism, a beginning. You don't call it a ritual, but they begin to. Soon others follow. They bring water in cracked bowls, light candles in niches along the chapel wall. They recite lines from your earliest sermons, some accurately, others not. It doesn't matter, it's alive. Your sister becomes their record keeper. She writes down the visions you speak aloud in your sleep, preserving them like seeds for future planting. She organizes the scrolls, draws maps in the dirt, tells newcomers the story of your prison, your escape, your rise. She's building a history, the old monk jokes one evening by the fire. You glance at her. Maybe. He chuckles. Or a gospel. The word hangs there heavy. You don't repeat it. But it doesn't go away. Some weeks later, you begin to feel a pressure behind your eyes. Not pain. Not yet. Just wait. Like something trying to push its way through your skull. The voice has grown quieter these past days. Not gone, but distant. Faint. You start seeing shapes in the shadows again. At first you think it's exhaustion. Then you dream. In the dream, you're walking through the monastery. But the floor is soft. Like mud. Like something underneath is moving. You look behind you, and there is no one. You look ahead, and you see yourself. But older. Eyes hollow, mouth sewn shut. You wake with a start. Your sister is already at your side. Another vision. You nod, but say nothing. The next day you speak to the flock. You tell them not of fire or judgment, but of silence. Of the danger in letting others speak for the divine instead of listening themselves. Of the slow rot of institutions that claim to know what only the heart can hear. They listen unsure. Some nod. Some look afraid. Later, one of the new followers approaches. A bright-eyed boy no older than 14. He's carrying a crude wooden carving, a figure meant to look like you. I made this, he says, proud, so others can see what a prophet looks like. You take it gently, and then you break it. His face crumples. Why? Because I'm not what matters, you say. What matters is what you heard, what you felt. Don't let the fire become a statue. He nods slowly. But you know what's coming. Your legend is no longer yours to contain. That night, your sister sits beside you. They're building shrines, she says. Small ones, in other towns. They say your words heal fevers, that your silence casts out sin. You close your eyes. They're making me into something I'm not. But maybe that's not up to you anymore. You don't answer. Because she's right. It's slipping from your hands. Still, you walk the path each morning. Still, you greet the newcomers. Still, you listen. But each day, the stories grow taller. The pilgrims more desperate. The silence more brittle. One afternoon, a group arrives, not peasants, not wanderers. Soldiers. Their leader dismounts with care. He doesn't bow, doesn't threaten. He simply says, "The bishop is dead." Others are rising in his place, and they are not as patient. You nod. I knew they would come. You're being watched again. Even here. You invite him to sit. He refuses. I'm not here to arrest you, he says. Yet. But I came to see if the rumors were true. If the man on the mountain really speaks with God. You smile faintly. Do I? He shrugs. I didn't hear anything, but I felt something. He turns to leave. Before he goes, he looks back. They'll come for you soon. Not in secret. Not with chains. With fire. With banners. With law. You nod. He vanishes down the path. That night you don't sleep. You write. A letter. A warning. A prophecy. You don't know who it's for. Maybe your sister, maybe the boy with the carving, maybe the next generation. You fold it. Place it beneath a loose stone near the chapel door. And in your mind, the voice returns, not booming, not stern, just quiet, gentle. When they come, speak. And if they kill you, let it be with truth on your tongue. You close your eyes and wait. You awaken before dawn to the faint clinking of tools against stone. At first, you think it's part of a dream, a memory of the fields you once worked, the rhythm of labor. But then you see it. Lanterns bobbing down the path like cautious fireflies. Silhouettes moving at the edge of the woods. No voices. No songs. Just preparation. The guards from the old towns have arrived, not in force, not yet. These are scouts, surveyors. They study the ruined monastery like it's a diseased limb, uncertain whether to cut or cleanse. You watch from the upper gallery of the chapel, hidden in the shadows. One man kneels, presses his hand to the dirt near the spring, murmurs something to another. Then they rise and vanish into the trees as quietly as they came. By morning, they're gone. But the stillness they leave behind is laced with warning. You gather the flock. Not all of them, just the core. Your sister, the woodsman, the burn-scarred widow, the boy with the carving, the old monk who still walks with a limp but carries more wisdom in his pauses than most do in their sermons. We're being watched again, you say. No one flinches. Not anymore. What do we do? The widow asks. You pause, then answer. We don't run. They nod solemn. But we also don't provoke. We prepare. Quietly, thoughtfully. You begin storing supplies, bandages, grain, clean water. You reinforce the broken cellar door not to barricade, but to give yourself choice. If the monastery becomes a trap, you'll need another path. You continue teaching, speaking, listening, and the people keep coming. One day a man limps through the gate, leaning heavily on a carved staff. His robe is tattered, but the ring on his finger glints unmistakably in the sun. A bishop's ring. You freeze. The ashen flock watches with hands on knives and axes, but the man simply kneels in the dust. I came to confess, he says. You step forward cautiously. To whom? To you, he says, or to whatever speaks through you. He looks up. I was a coward. I saw what the church was doing. I stayed silent. Now they've turned on their own. Burned 3 priests last week for harboring your words. You offer him water. He weeps. You don't baptize him. You don't declare him reborn. You simply sit beside him while he sobs into his hands. That is the ritual now, presence over pageantry. Others arrive like him. Disillusioned clergy. Former acolytes. People who once called you devil, now unsure what devilry really means. And yet, the fear grows. One evening, your sister approaches you with a scroll, fresh ink still damp. They're drafting a proclamation, she says, declaring you a false messiah. They're not just calling you dangerous anymore. They're calling you unclean. You nod. That means they're close to acting. She grips your hand. We should leave. You look into her eyes, the same eyes that once stared up at you from a straw mat, the same eyes that cried when your visions first began. I can't. Why you don't answer right away. Instead, you step outside. The wind has changed. cooler, sharper, carrying the weight of torches from places far away. You stare into the trees, and the voice comes again, clear, centered, soft. They will strike, and you must not strike back. Let your death not be a sword, but a seed. You drop to your knees, not from fear, from certainty. This is what it always was leading toward, not escape, not revolution, but testimony. You rise heart steady and find your sister still waiting behind you. They're going to kill me, you say. She nods, tearless now. I know. They think that'll stop this. She shakes her head. They don't understand fire. That night you prepare. You gather your writings, visions, warnings, prayers. You seal them in waxed cloth, hide them in the crypt beneath the chapel, behind the old altar stone. You give the boy with the carving one task: if I fall, take these to the valleys. Find those who still listen. He doesn't cry, he just nods and promises. Your sister packs your meager things anyway. Habit, hope, and the flock waits. Each breath heavier than the last, each sunrise tinged with dread. And finally it comes, not with fanfare, with smoke, with steel, with the pounding of hooves and the hiss of flame catching dry wood. You wake to shouts. The forest glows, the monastery burns, and they are here. Flames lick the edges of the monastery like a hungry mouth. The smoke twists upward into the cold mountain air, a beacon of destruction visible for miles. You stumble from your cell, coughing the scent of ash and splintered wood clogging your throat. Screams echo off stone and cliff. The monastery, the place where your second life began, is being devoured by fire. You rush to the chapel steps. The wooden beams crack above you, raining cinders. Through the chaos, you see the ashen flock scattering like birds flushed from a tree. Some run. Others fight. A few frozen by fear kneel in prayer, choosing faith over flight. Steel flashes in the firelight. Soldiers shout commands. Seize the prophet alive if possible. They mean you. You could run. You could disappear again into the woods, vanish into legend like so many before you. But you don't. You walk into the square, hands raised. I'm here. The guards stop. The fire sputters. Time holds its breath. You are barefooted, smoke-stained, wounded, but upright, unyielding. A single figure standing still while the world tilts and collapses around you. One of the soldiers steps forward. Not a brute. A captain. Young. Eyes conflicted. Are you the one they call the messenger? You nod. I don't see a monster, he mutters. Because I'm not you, reply. Then behind him, the bishop steps forward. Not the one who offered you silence in exchange for disappearance. That man is dead. This one is worse. You recognize his face. He was at your first trial. He never spoke, just watched. His eyes are cold now, not angry. Certain. Bind him, he says. The soldiers hesitate. Do it, he repeats. They move. Your wrists are tied with thick rope. Your sister shouts. A man lunges to protect you and is struck down instantly. The boy with the carving disappears into the woods, clutching the scrolls beneath his cloak. You see him go, you don't call out. He knows what to do. As they lead you away, someone in the crowd begins to sing. A low, trembling hum, wordless, mournful, defiant. Another voice joins, then another. Within moments, the courtyard trembles with harmony. It isn't loud. It doesn't fight. It simply exists. Like truth. Like gravity. The bishop scowls. Silence them. But no one does. You are led down the mountain under armed escort. Behind you, smoke rises from the place that sheltered the voice. Ahead of you lies trial or worse. But the song follows you for miles, carried on the wind. When it finally fades, it feels less like an ending and more like a promise. They take you to a stone fortress carved into a cliffside leagues away from any village. You are kept in a tower room with narrow windows and shackled ankles. They feed you twice a day. Bread, water, nothing more. And still visitors come. Not the flock, not your followers. Others. A mother who watched her son die of fever and wants to know what the afterlife feels like. A soldier who was ordered to burn a chapel and now can't sleep. A priest who lost his congregation to your teachings and wants to understand why. You don't preach. You just answer what you can. Your trial is brief. 3 charges: heresy, sedition, impersonation of the divine. They don't give you a voice. They already know what they want. You are sentenced to death by fire. The bishop makes the proclamation himself. The messenger shall burn that the truth may be cleansed. You bow your head, not from shame, from grief, not for yourself, for them. That night, your sister bribes a guard to enter your chamber. She kneels beside you and presses her forehead to yours. "You're not alone," she whispers. "I never was," you reply. She slips you a folded scrap of parchment. On it, your own words copied in her hand. Even if they bury the body, the breath will remain. You sleep well, dreamless. At dawn, they come for you. Chains clink, boots echo. The square is full, the stake is prepared. You walk calmly. The bishop reads a litany of your crimes. You don't hear it. You're listening for something else. And then you hear it. That song again. Not from the square, from the hills, from the roads, from the forests. Hundreds, maybe thousands humming. Soft, strong. You are bound to the stake. The torch is raised. And just before the flame touches the wood, you speak. Loud, clear, final. Truth cannot be burned. It only spreads. The fire takes you. But the wind takes your words. The flames rise fast. Too fast. Smoke spirals into the morning sky, and the fire crackles like it's laughing, mocking the men who lit it, mocking the idea that anything so wild could be controlled. The bishop watches from a raised platform, face stoic robes heavy with gold thread. He doesn't flinch. But his eyes flick once to the hills, where that humming continues, spreading like a second fire through the trees. They were supposed to silence you. Instead, they've crowned you. As your body crumples into the fire's embrace, the onlookers don't cheer. They don't throw stones. Many can't even watch. They bow their heads. Some weep. Some pray. A few simply stare, stunned, as if something holy just passed between them and was gone too quickly to grasp. But it isn't gone. It's already moving. That afternoon, before the ashes have cooled, a group of followers retrieves what's left of the rope that once bound your hands. They wrap it in linen, treat it like a relic. One woman carries away a shard of scorched wood from the stake. Another gathers blackened earth from beneath where you stood. They don't mourn loudly. There are no funeral bells, just silence and a flame that won't go out. Your sister survives. Disguised in a cloak stolen from a cart driver, she flees with the boy who hid your scrolls. Together they descend from the mountains under cover of night. They stay in stables, barns, caves. She teaches him how to speak your words without trembling, how to live them without needing your voice. She will become the first teacher, and the boy the first to write not just what you said, but what you meant. The flock does not die with you. It germinates, scattered like seeds. In the months that follow, your story spreads further than your feet ever could. In taverns and marketplaces, strangers trade stories of the peasant prophet who challenged bishops and walked into fire with peace in his eyes. In letters passed between frightened priests and whispering scribes, your name becomes a warning, a riddle, a threat. The church sends patrols to stamp it out. They burn every scroll they find, imprison those caught repeating your words. But even as they silence 10, 20 more take their place, they chant by riverbanks, paint symbols beneath floorboards, light candles in dark barns, and whisper to each other that the messenger is not gone, only transformed. One day, a traveling friar reaches a village stricken by drought. He is worn and quiet. The people ask him for prayers, but he offers only stories about a man who once said God lived in aching hands and empty bellies, about a voice that came to a peasant and told him that truth mattered more than safety. He does not name you, but the people begin to hum that tune again. The quiet song. A year passes, then another. One morning, a carpenter's daughter in a coastal town wakes up from a dream. She tells her family the messenger came to her, dressed in fire that did not burn. He said the rains would come, but only if the village shared its last grain with the strangers at their gates. They do. The rain comes. The villagers remember. Elsewhere in a city far from the mountain where you died, a group of scholars debates the source of unrest across the provinces. They mention your name like a curse and a curiosity. They study your teachings, try to trace the origin of your heresy. But it has no root anymore. It's everywhere. In lullabies, in protest chants, in the way people now look each other in the eyes when they say we deserve more. Your sister, older now, never returns to the monastery, but she sends others there. Quiet pilgrims. They rebuild it stone by stone, not as a temple to you, but as a haven for those who still hear something whispering in the silence. And on the wall, carved into fresh stone, someone writes, "Even if they bury the body, the breath will remain. You are gone, but you are not. Your voice, once just one among many, is now 1,000. You don't belong to the fire. You belong to the echo. The echo deepens. It no longer just repeats your words. It reinvents them, reshapes them, carries them like water into cracks too small for fire. Children grow up never hearing your name, but still humming the melody your flock once sang on the morning you burned. Entire villages trade verses in secret, carving fragments of your speech into doorframes, hiding copies in songbooks, inside coats, beneath floorboards. And slowly, without permission, without banners or proclamations, a movement blooms. Not a rebellion, at least not in the way the powerful fear. This is subtler, softer. It moves with the breath, not the sword. Some call it a heresy. Some call it a renewal. Some don't call it anything at all. But they gather, in fields after harvest, under starlit trees, in corners of taverns and cloisters and caves. They whisper what the church tried to bury. The divine is not in the throne. It is in the hunger. What was made low will be lifted. Truth cannot be burned. You would not recognize some of what they've made of you. In one region, they draw your likeness with fire for eyes and a lamb at your feet. In another, they speak of the 3 wounds, the rope burn on your wrists, the brand on your shoulder, and the silence you bore for so long. There are those who believe you died and rose 3 days later. Others say your body vanished before the fire touched it. Your sister never corrects them. She doesn't preach. She listens. When asked, she says simply, "He was my brother. He walked with pain, and he spoke plainly." And that is enough. She grows older with grace. Her hair turns silver. Her hands become maps of rivers and roots. Still, she walks village to village, quietly correcting cruelty where she can, healing what's cracked, planting what's missing. One evening in a village nestled between pine hills, she sits by a fire with a group of workers, men and women too tired to care about dogma, but still hoping for something better. They ask her the question they always ask: did he really hear the voice of God? She pokes the fire, says nothing at first. Then he heard something most people ignore. A boy asks, "What did it sound like?" She smiles faintly, like the truth when you're finally quiet enough to feel it. They don't press her after that. That night she dreams of you, not a vision, not a miracle, just you as you were, younger, laughing, before all of it, sitting beside her with a crust of bread between you, your feet muddy, your hands cracked. She wakes with tears in her eyes. She packs her things and sets off the next morning, following a trail she never speaks aloud. She walks for days until she reaches the edge of a riverbank, where the trees part and the stones remember your footprints. There she plants a tree, not because of a prophecy, but because it's time something grew. The sapling bends in the wind. She kneels beside it, leaves a handful of your ashes carried all this way in a pouch she's never opened at its roots. Waters it. Waits. Not for a sign. Just for peace. Years pass. The tree grows tall, thick, shelter for travelers, shade for animals. People begin calling it the prophet's tree. They leave notes in its bark, offerings, questions. And sometimes when the wind moves just right, those sitting beneath it swear they hear something whisper. A phrase, a line, a truth. Not thunderous, not divine, just familiar. Speak what burns, lift what breaks, begin again. And the breath moves on. Generations slip by like threads pulled through cloth. Time stretches, frays, tangles. Yet your name, half myth, half memory, remains stitched into the hem of the world. Not spoken in cathedrals, not carved in royal walls, but carried in kitchens, sung beneath breath during harvests, written into lullabies murmured to frightened children in the dark. 1,000 versions of you exist now. In the northern valleys, they say you were a shepherd who spoke with stars. In the lowlands, a baker whose bread cured illness. On the coast, a mute whose silence made kings tremble. Each story wrong in its own way. Each story true in its own way. The flock is gone in name, but not in spirit. In hidden circles across the land, the teachings live on. Not as laws, as customs, a way of being. A rhythm passed down like an heirloom spoon or an old scar on the wrist. They do not wear uniforms. They do not shout in the street. They light a second candle when someone's ill. They leave water out for strangers. They ask what broke you instead of what's wrong with you. They plant trees where ashes once lay. And they listen always deeply. The church tries again, of course. A new generation of bishops rise. They call your movement superstition, subversion, sickness. They pass edicts. They confiscate scrolls. They burn books that even mention the word messenger. But the fire no longer frightens them, because it has already burned through everything the fire was meant to destroy. In one city, a child is caught drawing your symbol an open eye within a circle on the door of a parish. He is brought before a magistrate. When asked where he learned it, he says, "My grandmother hums it." They ask Hums what, he shrugs. The truth. In another town, a midwife carries a talisman made from the old stake you burned on. She doesn't call it holy. She calls it steady. When nervous mothers ask her why she wears it, she says, "Because someone once stood still while everything burned." A new illness sweeps the land. One no priest can explain. The bishops pray for answers. The people walk the mountains, to the old monastery, to the spring still flowing. They drink not because it cures them, but because they remember you once said, "Even water listens if you speak softly." They begin speaking softly again, even to things they don't understand. One winter, an earthquake collapses the last standing wall of the old church that condemned you. The tower crumbles. The bells fall silent. People come to see the ruins. Some cry. Some laugh. Some kneel not in reverence but in reflection. An old man among them mutters, "Stone forgets, but stories don't." And so the story shifts again. You are no longer a name. You are a pattern. A way of holding pain without weaponizing it. A way of standing firm without striking back. A way of knowing when to speak and when to let silence carry more weight than 1,000 sermons. One spring, a girl climbs the hill to the prophet's tree. She's no one special, just tired. Her mother's sick, her brother gone. She sits beneath the branches and cries for a long time. Then she whispers, "I don't know what to do," and the wind moves. She doesn't hear a voice. Not really. But something shifts in her chest. She stands steadier. She walks back home. She begins again. And somewhere deep in the bones of the world, in the breath between stories, you are smiling. The seasons turn like pages soft and inevitable. Fields that once echoed with your footsteps are now overgrown, quiet, sacred in their own forgotten way. Roads have been built, rebuilt, abandoned, then rediscovered. Towns have risen where forests once stood. Churches have crumbled, rebuilt, rebranded, and bowed again under their own weight. But the rhythm you started, quiet, persistent, like breath, never stopped. It lives in the pauses between arguments, in the choice to listen rather than speak, in the way people lower their weapons even for a second and ask, "What did you lose?" No one knows exactly where your bones lie. Some say they were swept away with the ashes scattered into the hills. Others insist a shepherd found your remains and buried them beneath the roots of an olive tree, marking the spot with nothing but a pile of uncut stones. It doesn't matter. You've long since outgrown the need for a grave. Instead, you've become part of the soil itself. The language of your earliest sermons is fading, now evolved into dialects, rhythms, melodies no longer tethered to their source. But the essence remains like a scent you can't name, only follow. And still they follow. In one village, a woman who cannot read dreams of a man standing barefoot in the snow, speaking words she doesn't know but wakes remembering. She paints symbols on her cottage wall. People come. They sit. They cry. They leave lighter. In another, a man is sentenced to death for harboring rebels. On the morning of his execution, he asks for no final words. only that the crowd hum the old tune. They do. The guards unbidden remove their helmets. One weeps. The sentence is never carried out. And far away in a place where your name was never spoken aloud, a child scrawls a phrase into the frost on a window pane. The divine kneels, not stands. No one taught him that. He just knew. Your sister's writings survive, passed from hand to hand, smuggled in the hems of cloaks, wrapped in waxed cloth, buried in jars beneath floorboards. Not scripture, just memories, fragments, moments you lived and didn't even notice. A joke you told her before dawn. The way you always walked barefoot, even when the snow came early. How you stared at the stars, not to divine the future, but to remember the sky was always bigger than your pain. She never called you a saint. She never tried to make you more than you were. And that's what made her words feel true. People read them like they'd been written about them. And in a way they had. Because what you gave them wasn't doctrine. It was permission. Permission to hurt. To doubt. To burn. To speak anyway. And they do, in cellars and storm shelters, on mountaintops and kitchen floors, in whispers and in songs with no lyrics. Your presence lingers not as a ghost, but as direction. You are not the destination. You are the compass. Even now, centuries later, when kingdoms have changed and flags replaced and temples built in your name have been torn down by those who misunderstood your very first lesson, someone somewhere still begins their morning by lighting a candle and asking, "What would the messenger do if he were here?" And then they go do it, quietly, without waiting to be remembered. The world no longer remembers the titles of the kings who ruled when you lived. Their statues have crumbled, their coins lost to time, their laws overwritten by the shifting sands of history. But your story fragmented, reshaped, and passed like breath remains. And now it isn't just a story. It's a practice, a pattern. In distant lands where your name was never spoken, a midwife teaches her daughters that truth lives in pain honestly named. A teacher gives students time to sit in silence before each lesson. A mason etches a symbol onto the base of each stone he lays, not for protection, but as a promise: I build what will shelter others, not myself. No one told them to do this, but still they do. A quiet revolution continues not with swords or riots, but with moments. A father listens instead of scolding. A merchant forgives a debt. A prisoner chooses not to curse the hand that shackles him, but to sing instead. They are not following a faith. They are echoing a way. Your words live in different languages now. Some barely resemble the ones you first spoke in the square beneath the noonday sun. But their music is the same. Their rhythm. Their hum. Some call it the way of the ashen. Some call it the breath doctrine. Some don't call it anything at all. But they gather. Not to worship, to remember. A single phrase scrawled in charcoal on a wall in the oldest part of a city reads, "Speak what burns." No one knows who wrote it. No one dares erase it. Far from the cities, deep in the hills near the ruins of your monastery, the prophet's tree still stands. Its branches are thick now, bent with age roots coiled into the mountain, like fingers clinging to memory. The pilgrims who visit it don't ask for miracles. They come to sit, to breathe, to listen. And often they leave small offerings, not gold, but letters. Letters addressed to no one. Letters to you. I lost someone. I spoke even though I was afraid. I forgave them finally. I'm still here. The wind rustles the leaves, carrying each word upward, outward, across valleys, across oceans, across time. You are not a god. You are not a savior. You are a wound that healed in public. A voice that never shouted but was heard anyway. A fire that never begged to be seen but lit everything around it. And long after your bones have become dust in the dirt, long after your face has been reshaped by legend and longing, you are still walking in bare feet beside every person who dares to believe that something holy might still be found in the broken. You made it. All the way through. Let your breath settle. Let your thoughts drift. Maybe your body is still holding the echo of the fire, or the whispers in the trees, or the sound of rope against skin. That's okay. Let it pass. You were with someone tonight. Not just a peasant, not just a prophet, but a person fierce, confused, tender, hurting, and brave in all the wrong ways at all the right times. They didn't ask to change the world. They just couldn't ignore the voice inside them any longer. And neither should you. Maybe the voice inside you is small right now. Maybe it only hums when you're alone. Maybe it doesn't speak in full sentences, just colors or aches or longings you can't name yet. That's okay. All voices begin that way. What matters is that you listen, that you honor what it stirs in you, that you let it rise and ripple, even if no one else hears it yet. Because the story doesn't end with the messenger's last breath. It ends every time someone like you chooses truth over comfort, courage over silence, and kindness when anger would have been easier. You're a part of it now. Close your eyes. Inhale deep. The fire's out. But the warmth remains.